Hi, my name is Ron Howard, and I feel, frankly, indifferent about being Conan O'Brien's friend.
You know what? And no one says this often, but Ron Howard, you prick. You have this reputation of being like, oh, he's the nicest guy. And then you come in here and you take me off.
I can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here, but I'm here. I'm here.
You know, to be honest, you really could. I mean, I was shocked you showed up. You've had a level of success. Frankly, I'm surprised when anyone shows up. But you've had a level of success where, you do not need to be here, and I'm appreciative that you're here.
No, I actually do. I've always loved conversations with you, going back to your rookie year on TV.
That's right. You came on. You were one of the early people to come on the show, and you agreed to do a bit. No one knew who I was, and we were trying very, very out there bits. And we said, what we want to do is we want to saw your arm off. And you said, okay. And we did a bit where you had a stunt arm, and at one point we're talking, and I just take out a saw, and I saw your arm off, and you're screaming. And you were fantastic. And of course, most people didn't know who I was. You were, you've been iconic since, 1965, so and beloved. And so people, I remember, this is back when people would write in with complaints, but people were saying, the way you treated Ron Howard. I didn't really saw his arm off.
I loved it. Hey, a funny redhead, there you go.
Okay, I have a very clear, distinct memory of getting invited to some event. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like a Vanity Fair party, something where I would feel a little bit out of place and thinking, do I belong here? And I'm with my wife, and I get, they seat me at a table with you and your wife and a couple of other people, but we're all right next to each other. And then you and I start to get into this very intense conversation. And I remember people at the table thinking, wow, what are Conan and Ron Howard talking about? It's really intense. Like, are they talking about film? What are they talking about? My wife leaned over and she listened, and then she said to the rest of the group, sunblock. And it was true. It was true. And you were saying like, no, here's what I do. I always try and wear a hat, but it's got to be at least a 45. And I was like, but is there zinc in there? And you're like, here's the deal, Tony. Zinc can be problematic. And we went really deep. And of course your wife was like, yeah.
Well, my wife's a redhead.
Yes.
Your color. Yes. Vivid redhead. And same as Bryce. When Bryce was our firstborn, and the first time that we took her in, we went to the dermatologist, Cheryl and I, and brought Bryce. And Bryce was literally in our arms, so she was maybe a year old. Yeah. And the dermatologist, gives us each our checkup and so forth. And then he says, you're gonna have to keep a hat on her. You're gonna have to keep her. And then he looked at Cheryl and looked at me and he said, she's very pale. She's pale. I said, yes, we know she's pale. He said, you're not gonna have any more kids, are you?
Oh my God!
He meant it.
Oh my God!
Yeah. I remember distinctly having a conversation with a dermatologist once where he said, okay, this is when I'm in my 30s, and he went, okay, I mean, but look at the freckling you have, the sun damage. And I went, well, yeah, and he said, well, do you do sunblock? And I said, yeah. And he said, do you wear a hat? Yeah. Do you wear long shirts? Yeah. Okay, but what about some days... Do you ever walk? How do you get from the car to the? And I said, you know what? I live on the planet Earth, and there's nothing we can do about that because it has a sun. So some sun is going to get to me. And it was like, well, it's your death.
It's like they're afraid you're going to bring down their the level of life expectancy for their patients.
Yes,
and
for everybody.
Besmirch their record.
Yeah, it's going to lead to a lawsuit. Probably.
Yeah.
You mentioned Bryce, who I adore. She's a terrific talent, beautiful. You must be very proud of her. You told me that when she came on my show once, it was a very tense moment for you. Why?
Well, I mean, I'm a parent of adults. That sort of constant worrying about your kids is kind of, it's kind of faded. I feel pretty confident about it.
I don't have that. I just thought hey man, I'm in show business. I got to worry about myself. Yeah. These kids are on their own.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
But you walk your path.
Yeah. Okay.
But she said, I'm going to cry on demand on Conan's show. And I said, "Oh, come on, Bryce." And I've seen her do it.
Yeah.
She can cry. She can cry on command. And I said, "But that's not. I mean, it's a show. It's a live show. I mean, it's." And she said, "No, I'm going to do it." And so then she told me it worked. So I know that. And yet, when I watched her on the show doing it, I was so edge of my seat. Still,
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I recommend if you get a second, check this out. Because Bryce was on the show and she did this, and it was really, I think, I mean, I can't say this about my own show, but it was a very cool moment of television because she said she was going to do it. The whole audience gets very quiet, and there's a process, and you can hear a pin drop.
Right.
My heart's pounding
I bet.
because I'm thinking I'm the host of the show. I can only imagine.
Failure's not that funny.
Yeah. I had gotten used to it at that point.
And sometimes I just wander the aisles all by myself in Home Depot, and I think about all the amazing things that they have.
Yeah.
And I think about all the incredible products they have.
Yeah.
And I think about everything that they have at Home Depot, and I just think to myself, my God, Home Depot, how do you do this? How do you do this incredible thing? You give so much and you get so little in return. I mean, some people pay for the stuff, but are they really paying you enough for what it's worth? They're not really paying you what you really should have. And I think that at some point, people should actually give Home Depot what they're due, because it's not fair. It's a company, and it's in a company that should be compensated. Oh my God!
It was a moment, and I've heard about it from so many people.
And when the tear finally rolled down, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
no.
everybody
might as well have been a
Yeah.
Super Bowl touchdown."
yeah, yeah,
But here's the thing about Bryson crying. Her first professional job, maybe not her first time on Broadway, was this Tartuffe, this classic show, and so here she is in this theater opening night. She is sick, fever. Cheryl and I had to get her to the theater, and we weren't sure she was going to be able to even do the show. But of course, it's opening night, so she's doing it. And there's this scene where she's at her father's feet and begging for something, and she starts crying. And we're sitting in like the third row, and it's it's theater, so people can fake cry, and it kind of works. But she's really crying. Tears are going down her face, and it's just like an unbelievable moment for me, coming from a theatrical family and all that. And I looked over, and Cheryl's just kind of sitting with her arms crossed, kind of with a little smile on her face, no emotion whatsoever. So we get to intermission, and I said, "Babe, weren't you knocked out by that moment? I mean, there she is. She's got a fever. It's her opening night. She's crying real tears on Broadway." And she said, "Are you kidding me? She did that every day of her life when she was 17.
because she couldn't use the car. We've all seen that.